All right, don't sit down yet because we're going to get a close up of Brian's hat here. This is so important. He's going to show you his hat.
Okay.
Oh, nauseating zoom. There we go.
Okay, so this is actually a shielded cap, and it says AF6NA on the side. Okay, and it also says shielded on the back. There's some kind of actually a silver fabric that's inside, and if anybody wants one of these, we're going to make them available as soon as I find an embroidery shop that doesn't charge an arm and a leg like this one did. But if SBMS members would like to have some of these, then that might even be what we give to our new members instead of the little buttons. I'm not sure. We can still continue the buttons, but anyway,
SBMS tinfoil hats.
No. See, this is so we don't look like those tinfoil hat nerdy people, wearing tinfoil hats. We can do it stylishly. We can protect ourselves. Robert says he's worn one of these, and it actually keeps some of those extraneous voices from really interrupting his thought process too much. Which is,
by the way, it has to be tin. Aluminum won't work.
I believe all of this too, by the way.
So it's a green screen room.
The alternative suggestion is upping your lithium dose for your medication.
Okay, and I'm sure that could work too. But he probably knows way more about biology than I do.
He's a doctor.
He's a doctor too. So I would listen to him.
Lithium doesn't last as long as the hat.
So I'm actually going to be making a couple of these for our new members. Probably Neil and Devin. Devin's one of our new members, and Tom also. And so you guys are gonna get shielded SBMS caps now. And I just thought that was kind of something I could bring to the table as coming in as the new treasurer.
Thank you very much, Brian, and we appreciate the effort that you put in working with Dick to get the banking moved over. It wasn't an easy task, and then there was actually some very rude statements made to Brian at another institution that just was uncalled for. So, all right, very good. So we got the banking thing whipped into shape. This is great.
Oh, you need the second motion for raising.
Well, let's put it into a formal. All right, everybody, stand by. There is a formal motion coming down to raise the rates from $15 as they've been for, I think, the last 25 or 30 years to $20, mainly because Brian mainly because Brian only wants $20 bills, and also because our dues went up here in the our rental here in the hall went up a little bit. So starting in 2024, when we start paying for the new year, the motion is to raise the dues to $20 per year. Do we have any dissension on that? Any dissenters? Looking at Robert seconds the motion. All right, everybody else, I'm assuming if we have no dissenters, that means everybody is for the motion. So if I'm wrong on that, somebody state so, otherwise the motion carries. Motion carries. Very good, by unanimous consent of the membership. But all right, very good. So Brian, do you want to address that? And the other thing I was going to say is, if you have not paid your dues since 1976, this is a good time to pay them, because you're going to get a $5 a year discount to pay your past dues. And also, if you haven't paid for 2023, you're going to get the $5 discount. So now is a good time to get caught up, all of those people who haven't paid, and we know where you live.
So on our new website, W6IFE, it used to be SBMS at ham radio, but now it's W6IFE is our new website. There's a link where you can actually go to PayPal and you can actually submit your payment online. It goes into a PayPal account, which Marty has actually been managing for us. And, you know, when we get some money in there, then he sends it over to our bank account. Now that's already been linked. And so,
Yes, Marty's cash transfer fee is about 12%. We found that was pretty reasonable.
it does, just like anything with PayPal, right? Yeah, that's why we don't send it over every time somebody pays dues.
I'd like to
We-
suggest, Brian, that in view of your new office, that you have somebody certify the books, not notarized, although you could do that. But since you want to have a set point of this is how much money we actually have, and we certify that so that it protects you from somebody claiming that you might have done something.
Thank you for that, Doug. And that sounds like the right thing to do.
So I'm going to add on top of that. I'll have a discussion with Marty, or Brian, you can have a discussion with him. I think Marty is a CPA. He's retired, but I think if we're going to ask him to certify books, we're going to have to pay him something. I don't. think
Yes, we will.
He can do that. So short of certifying the books, we can at least have him review them. And
Yeah.
he has been doing that because Marty's the compliance officer. So he keeps us clean with all of the various state agencies that want to know what we're doing with our money and why we're meeting here. Yes.
Just as a suggestion, it would probably be best if Marty referred us to a CPA. That way there's no apparent conflict of interest.
I agree with that, but if that's the case, then it's going to cost several $1,000s and there isn't enough money to cover that if we keep doing that. So I think, well, Doug is
Let me
correct.
make a suggestion.
Yes, go ahead.
All it would take would be Brian showing you the books and saying this is what we have, you looking at it and making a motion in the meeting. The books have been checked. Do we all agree on it? Yes. It's an internal, very low key kind of thing. We don't need to have a big production about it.
Thank you, Doug.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I'm just-
still because Marty's a CPA, I'd still like to run it by him and see what he says.
Sure.
I think Robin had another comment before we go ahead. You can bring me cash, or you can bring me a check in person, or I don't have a PO box yet. If you want my address, you can send checks to me.
Rob,
You know something? QRZ won't let me back in. They won't let me into my account
okay, we don't want to know.
because I forgot my
the backstory.
password years ago.
Okay, we don't want to know the backstory.
Question,
Yes.
is there a way to pay with PayPal?
PayPal, yeah. You know what? I'm gonna make sure that we get that published on the the reflector. So if you want to send something to a PayPal account, you can either send it to a PayPal account, or you can just click the link on our website and it'll do it.
That
All
would be
right.
great.
All right. I'm going to make a shameless statement here and I'll apologize up front. You don't have to send just $20. If all of a sudden you won the local lottery in your neighborhood and you got $1,300 of prize money and you wanted to send us, $100, that's perfectly fine. We don't discriminate against any different types of money where it comes from. So-
Ukraine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're registered with the state of California, and we're also recognized by the IRS as a 501c3.
Marty.
Yes, we do. Yes,
Marty
we do.
has it.
Yep. That's one of the documents we needed to set up our new account. So,
All right, very good. So have we beaten banking to death? All right, we're going to move on to the next subject. Doug Millar is going to talk about micropower watt meters, and he's got a little presentation. I think he's going to take control of the meeting here to run it. So QRP watt meters. Here you go. Take it away, Doug.
So this talk is what I've been working on for a while about QRP watt meters, because there's some differences. And I thought I'd go through it. In the meantime, we found out some good information about a 10 gigahertz QRP watt meter. So sit back and enjoy. And this isn't terribly long, but I hope it's interesting. Good low power meters, watt meters, should have good low power accuracy. And just because you can read down to 2 watts doesn't mean it's actually going to be 2 watts in some meters. And you need good resolution. And a lot of times the resolution of the scale on the meter is indicator of how accurate it is. So if it's only calibrated every 10 watts, it may not be that good. But you'll see, I've got some examples of good ones and bad ones. For our purposes, I think we want something pretty small and that's field usable. That we can put in a toolkit or take it out when we do POTA or when we do microwave stuff. So let's move on. Here's some rules of thumb. If you can get a meter that has 5% of reading, it's a very good meter. If you've got one that's 5% of full scale, that's typical. That's a bird meter. 10% of full scale is a cheap meter, unless the frequency range is really wide. A lot of 200 to 500 megahertz meters, obviously that's a lot of ground for a coupler to cover, are 10% of full scale. But actually, when you get down to HF, might be 5%, which might be much better. Okay, and then this was another rule of thumb. How much reflected power is SWR? Well, if you're running 100 watts and you get 10 watts back, that's a 2-to-1 SWR. If you get 4 watts back, that's 1.5 to 1. So you want to keep that 4.4, 0.04 number in your head as something to shoot for when you're adjusting antennas, just kind of in general. Okay, let's look at some analog and through-line meters, terminating meters, and see what we come up with. This is a Bird 4411, and there was a large series of those meters, most of them VHF, I think. And they're 2-range, forward and reflected. They have QC connectors on it, so you can put any kind of connector you want on it. But they're a very strong brass metal case with a recessed meter in it. They're probably impossible to destroy. I've never seen one in other than fairly good condition. And this one is an HF version that's 220 watts, 200 forward, 20 watts reverse. So what you do is you turn it around backwards. You feed the opposite end in and out, and you get 20 watts full scale. And this makes a really, really good 20 watt QRP meter. You don't get anything reverse because it isn't done that way. If it bothers you, then switch the leads around inside so that forward is reverse, reverse is forward. You can do it that way. But that's one way of taking a meter you want to dedicate to low power reading and change it over. And you can see from the photograph, it's really got pretty good. 20 watts is a great scale for doing QRP, whether it's an IF rig or whether it's POTA or something like that. Here's one that's a sleeper. These things go for nothing on eBay. They're micro match. They were made in the 50s. You think that's a, might as well be Dr. Zarkov or Frankenstein or something. Well, the coupler is a resistive voltage divider. So if you toast it, you just get 2 more 1 watt resistors and solder them back in. You can calibrate it. There's a pot on the back, and it has a very nice 4 watt scale. Now they made these in 4, 2.5 watt, 1 watt, 250 milliwatt meter setups. So you probably, for QRP reasons, want to get a 4 watt version like this one, and then put a 10 dB attenuator on it. That way you have a 40 watt QRP meter, and you can see from the scale got a pretty nice scale. You'll be able to read a wide range of stuff. If you do a spot calibration on 20 meters, the thing will read correctly from about 20 meters to about a gigahertz, 5 or 10% of scale. Some micromatch meters don't, but these do, as long as the resistors are in good shape on the inside and the thing all falls apart with screws. And it's not hard to replace the resistors or do any calibration. So these are available cheaply, but they work really well. You just want to make sure the movement works. But I've had a lot of these over the years, and they make good meters. I would say I did not do that with this meter. But usually what I'll do is when I get it fixed up, I'll measure the input resistance of the meter, 50.1 ohms or something, and label with a date what the resistance is, because nothing shows that you fried the resistors so well as showing a change in resistance. Usually it goes lower. On the other way around, if you see one of these at the swap meet and the guy wants $100 for it, put your ohm meter on it, and it better be right at 50 ohms or 52 ohms. If it's 47 or 46 ohms, somebody's roasted it, and you probably have to change the resistors. Oh, QRP watt meters. Here's a Daiwa or Diamond SX200. It's kind of pretty to take out in the field, but it's kind of unavoidable. 160 megahertz to 1.8 megahertz to 200 megahertz with a single coupler and 5% of full scale. So you get HF and 2 meters on the same meter, 200 watts, 20 watts, and 5 watts. Now it says it's a 200 watt meter, but what I found out in reading about all these guys is that most meters that are small like this, their maximum power is PEP. And if you run 200 watts through this thing on your 2 meter rig, you're gonna cook it. It's not made, it says 200 watts, but it isn't made for any more than 75 to 100 watts because of the coupler and all that stuff. These are about $70 used, and I think they're pretty good bang for the buck for a through line QRP meter. And here's a picture of the scale. The 20 watt scale is very good. There's 1 watt increments from 20 watts down to 2 watts. And then the 5 watt scale is half a watt. And then you get down lower and it's better resolution. So you could actually do on low power rigs, if you're setting them up like if you're doing it for an IF rig, you can get some decent readings that are accurate. And then the thing I like about the Diamond is that all the ones I've used have been accurate. I've not had to recalibrate any of them. Okay, and here's a Diamond SX20C. I put this one in not because we haven't seen enough of diamonds, but the 30 watt scale, if you look at the top of it up here, it's pretty crowded, but you get below 20 watts and you get some nice resolution all the way down to 1 watt. So, and this is a very, very sturdy meter. The reflected range is 10 watts. I wouldn't turn the meter around at anything like that for it, but this is a good scale, and it's a very sturdy, accurate meter. But they're $160 new. I would say used for $60. Now you're talking a good meter. MFJ makes a similar one called the 822 for $60. My experience with MFJ, I don't want to be too glib about it, but I've had to recalibrate every single one of them that I've had, which is not all there are. There may be some that are calibrated better than others, but they've been 10% or worse of value. So better to go with the Diamond, I think. Here's an MFJ 894, and it has 2 problems. One, for me anyway, the scales over here on the 0 to 20 or 200 watts or whatever, they're calibrated differently for each wattage level, which makes it, for me at least, very difficult to read. And it's not calibrated. There are about 12 or 15 pots in there that you can adjust. So if you can generate a measurable amount of power on a good meter, you can calibrate the thing. But my warning is you'll probably want to do that because it's not that accurate. But the scale, what drives me off is the scale is not very good. Okay, but here's the Daiwa CN801. This is a sleeper because it seems that the 901 is the new meter. It reads 3 kilowatts, 300 watts, and 30 watts. Everybody wants one, and they're willing to go out and pay $180 for one. Good for them, because they want to dump their old CN801 on eBay for $50. Great. These are really good meters. If you look at the resolution of the forward scale, it's fantastic. Half a watt or less, good SWR, good frequency range, 1.8 to 200 megahertz, 20, 200, and 2000. Great. By the way, I would not run 2 kW through this. It's got a fairly small coupler. And you might, well, probably you don't want to do that. Figure that's a PEP number. Okay. I can always buy to make a QRP watt meter out of your Bird 43, you can buy a 25H slug for more than $200. But my suggestion is you buy one of these or even one of these and save yourself a bunch of money. But if you already have a full selection of birds, you may have a 25H slug, and there you go. One thing to consider, though, maybe you need 2 meters, a couple of meters, because you may want to use your QRP watt meter somewhere where, I mean, if you had a Bird 43 and put it in the main antenna line in your HF antenna, good. Now it's there. What if you want to use it someplace else? So having several meters of different types is good rather than different slugs. I don't know. I'm not bad mouthing Bird. My preference is a Bird 4410, and I've got, well, you'll see. Here's a good bird idea. This is the 6254. There's 2 of them, or 3, I think, actually. The one on the left is 0 to 2 watts. The one on the right is 0 to 1 watt. And I think there's a 250 milliwatt version. What do you do with those? You put an attenuator on the front, 10 or 20 dB, and you'll all of a sudden have a 20 watt meter that goes from 20 meters to about 1,000 megahertz, 500 for sure, and it's almost indestructible. The reason why you buy them used at the swap meter on eBay, they always work because nobody uses them enough to flash them over, and they're in a very, very strong cabinet with a meter protector.
Those heat the power, though. They turn the power to heat, right?
They're a Thermaline, and if you put a 10 dB attenuator on the front, you can run 20 watts into it, and 19 of the watts or 18 of the watts will be dissipated in the attenuator, and the last 2 watts will be dissipated in the resistor on the inside of the meter. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
So these cannot be put in line to measure power as your, even if you had a QRP rig.
This is a terminating meter. Okay. These other guys are through line meters. If you ever see one of these at any kind of a reasonable price, the one on the left, it'd be a good idea to get one. 3 watts, 10 watts, and 30 watts, 100 kilohertz to 500 megahertz, 5% of full scale, calibrated, and an excellent meter. But I've only ever seen a couple. I have an extra one for sale, along with the one on the right, which is 200 milliwatts, 800 milliwatts, and 3 watts. These again have a cabinet around them that protect the meter, so you often see these in good shape when you see them. And again, it's a terminating meter. The 30 watt scale, most of the power gets dissipated in an attenuator. You can only see the first 2 veins of over here. So the connector sticks out here at the end of an attenuator to about there, and there's an end connector. So, but these are for a wide range in terms of power and frequency. This is an extremely good meter. Since nobody knows what they are, they look a little funny. They generally don't go for much money. Okay, and then here's one that probably everybody's seen one way or the other. This is not a 6154. I thought for the purposes of this talk, 6154 is too big. This is the 15 and 60 watt version. Again, like the other birds, this is in a really disaster-proof case. These are meant to be put in toolboxes and hauled around to sites all over the place. This has a 60 watt and a 15 watt scale from 20 meters to 1200 megahertz. It's 5% of full scale down to 20 meters and about 10% down to 40 meters. Same thing with the other ones. Test and record the resistance of the load and mark it so you can tell whether it's changed. This is a 611. It's a I managed to get one in nice shape. It helps in any of these meters if you get one in nice shape, because frequently if they're really beat up, it means they're beat up on the inside as well. These should come if you take the face off, you unclick it and take the face off. There should be a separate detector diode, a spare one, right about here on the inside of the case. Makes it pretty nice. I keep a cap on the end of mine most of the time to keep the crud out of it. Okay, well, here's a bizarre way to think of a QRP watt meter. Why not get a thermocouple meter? This particular one is an Anritsu that nobody likes. They're orphans. The sensors are like an HP sensor, but they're $150. The meter is 25 to 40 bucks. It has an LED display, which you can see across the room in direct sunlight, et cetera, et cetera. But it is 3% of reading. It's probably the most accurate meter you can have in your shack. 200 milliwatts input maximum, and the cheaper sort of sensor goes to 5.5 gigahertz, 100 kilohertz to 5.5 gigahertz. So if you put an attenuator on the front end of it, like a 10 watt or 20 watt attenuator, you can read an awful lot of HF, VHF microwave power levels very, very accurately for not very, very much money for a nice meter not made in the 60s. You know, you're not buying a 432 or something. It's a much more modern meter. But do not buy this setup unless you get the cable. Don't think, well, I'll just pick up a cable someplace. The cables are $200 if you pick them up otherwise. If you see this as a setup, which some people do, they want to finally get rid of it. They're pretty easy to come by. But you can say the same thing about the 432, 436, or General Microwave or Pacific Microwave. It run it the same way. It wouldn't be as pretty as this one or run as nicely. And I think this one runs off DC. But you have the same deal. It'll go to either 10 milliwatts or 200 milliwatts, and you can put an attenuator on the end of it and run. I think Gary MEM has a 432 he runs with a 30 or 40 dB attenuator on it at 100 watts, and he checks everything with it. It's just a one instrument stop rather than a whole bunch of different slugs and all kinds of stuff to do. Okay, this was the test set up to do all these measurements, and I used a 705 for RF generation, ran a nondescript cable to a BNC connector, and that power level would get measured. I'd turn it off and then plug it in here and start the same and key it down again. Between key downs, there was always the same power level. The 705 doesn't drift much at all. But I go back to set a different power level, and there's a 30 watt, the 50 watt 30 dB attenuator, a regular power head, and then this is what the power level looks like. That's 4.94 watts. That's pretty close to 5 as far as the meter is concerned. So if you're going to start doing the high end of all this stuff, this is kind of what your setup's going to look like probably. Okay, well, enough of Stone Age watt meters. Let's go to something more modern. Here's a 12 watt maximum. I don't know why they picked 12 watts. A power meter which shows power and SWR, has a battery in it and a Type-C USB charger, which is pretty common for almost all stuff these days. But it's only $41, and it was designed by G8GYW. They're really nice. I mean, if you're going to run a 5 watt radio, this is a really nice watt meter to have. And this is a through line, not a terminating meter. You can put a little 5 watt attenuator on the back of it, but there might be some good purpose for that. Here's a completely digital meter that's, you say it's non-standard manufacturer. I had one of these for a while, and it had several problems. You had to plug it in to make it work. that kept it from working in some places. It's also sensitive to SWR. If you run a 4 or 5 or 10 watts reverse power, it tended to get into the digital circuitry and wipe out the readings. It would just go buzz and go nuts. So I don't know if I threw it away or gave it away or sent it packing or put it in the trash. It simply would not do well in any kind of an actual field thing. Like I was trying to set up a buddy pole and the SWR goes up and down all over the place. Well, you couldn't find out where it was because the SWR was also all over the place on the meter because the display got ruined. So I'm a little nervous about electronic meters like this. Maybe because this one was cheap and it certainly didn't say Bird on it or Daiwa. Okay, and here's the one we've been talking about. This is the new 10 gigahertz meter. It's goes from minus 60 dBm to 30 dBm, and it uses an analog devices 8317 IC chip in it. It has an attenuator. I'll show you. You'll see the inside in a minute. AD8317. If you look on eBay, there's all kinds of little circuit boards with that meter on it. It has a battery in it, and it charges with a Type-C USB cord, and it runs forever. I haven't had to recharge mine. They're about $85. It has an internal 30 dB attenuator. The return loss is 5 dB, which is awful. So I'm talking to Dave and Pat because they've both been working with these things. And our opinion is use an external 30 dB attenuator. And what we thought was, if you're out in the field and you got to take this little thing, little box, little display, and mess with it to get it working when you're out in the field, you're going to make a mistake, and this mistake will involve burning up the meter. So put a 30 dB attenuator out in front. And this is what I came up with. Here's the meter all lit up. And the top is torn up because I went inside of it and looked in the inside. And there's a Type N with a 30 dB attenuator. And here's an adapter with 2 SMA attenuators. The input's 1 watt, so you can use a regular attenuator and not burn it up, but I put one of these larger HB guys on it. That's the way we're going to suggest that you use one of these meters, is with an external attenuator, and it'll read correctly. You might just have to interpolate the readings, but you won't burn it out. We did use my HB 8720 to do return loss, and here's what it looks like. It's okay down below 2 gigahertz. It's minus 26 dB. You get up to 6 dB, 6 gigahertz, and it's 14 dB, which isn't bad, but about 8 gigahertz, it starts to go poor. And by the time you get up to 10 gigahertz, it's minus 5, minus 6 dB, return loss. So that's what the 30 dB is going to cover. Not only won't you set the thing wrong, but the return loss on the front of the meter will be much higher, and it'll give you correct readings. Otherwise, the return loss will affect the readings. Okay, and then here's the inside of the critter. And this is the header from the display. It goes to the CPU chip. Goes back here where you've got the Type-C connector for data and for power supply. And then a ribbon cable over to the other board. And this is how I see it. End connector comes in and goes to the attenuator and or preamplifier. It has an output that goes to the AD chip. And then out of that is the data. That's what the data sheet says on it. I put out an email on the reflector that gives you the URL for the data sheet for the chip and a picture of the return loss.
Hey, Doug,
Yeah.
just looking at that, you could take off the end connector and put an SMA in there, correct?
Yeah, the chip itself has a bad return loss. The little chip over here has a bad return loss above 8 gigahertz. So I don't think you're going to help it. I mean, I was thinking the same thing, Pat. You could dress this a lot better or make a physical bridge or something.
I'm not thinking so much helping it as having to eliminate an adapter to go from.
Oh, yeah, of course. Do you have an SMA connector with the same footprint as an N?
That would be the thing, yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be the only option.
Yeah.
Okay, just a thought.
Yeah, whatever you want to do. It's your meter. So typical of us, we turn them into our meters. But yeah, you got one there, Dave? Is it all turned on? Dave?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You have it all turned on?
It's turned on here and it's making a display.
But okay. So this is a little closer picture. I thought I'd give you a look at it. It looks like there's rosin all the way around the pad, which is going to make some odd, some losses at 10 gigahertz. Otherwise,
Is it okay to pass?
it just seemed to me from the data sheet that this was the problem, and that the attenuator really didn't seem to make any difference. So I'll use an external attenuator. Okay, then as far as attenuators are concerned, these days you can do pretty well. The Weinschel one on the right is DC at 8.5 gigahertz. It works fine at 10. It's 25 watts, and they're about $40. And there's a Mika 10 dB, 10 watt, $15 attenuator. These are good too. They have pretty good frequency response. Just before you seal the deal on your attenuator, do a little resistance measurement and make sure the thing isn't toasted. Okay, that's the QRP watt meter talk. All the way through. If you got questions, sing out. Okay. Back to you, Dave.
Thank you very much. Here we are in Corona control here. Very good. Nobody had any questions.
Okay.
Class to see the display.
That last one was a through meter or a terminating meter?
Terminating meter.
meter.
And if you go by the return loss, it looks like it's about a 2.5 gigahertz device. I haven't had a chance to study. Doug, did you find the part number for that input chip, not the detector chip?
I have no idea what it is.
I haven't either. If anybody knows, I'd be curious to know, because I couldn't find it in anybody's, Google search for any of the manufacturers, nor could I find it in the surface mount device database. So I'd be curious what it is.
The real story is the return loss on the front end with the.
I think it's
front end.
I think it's a broadband IF amplifier of some kind that just has really, really broad bandwidth. And then it has programmable features like gain and attenuation. I think that's what it is. So,
well, the poor return loss of that first chip suggests that it might be Chinesium.
Well,
that was the conclusion.
The bad I'm sorry, the bad return loss is in the detector chip, the second one. It is only good to 8 gigahertz and flattens out after that. So I think that's where the response problem is. I mean, if you could fix the front end up, it would still be just as bad.
If you're seeing poor return loss, even when attenuation is switched in above some frequency, well, then the return loss is not so good above that frequency.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the first device has to be the culprit, or the match between the device and the type N connector. So
I'm not sure. You have any suggestions on what to look at?
Not that great.
What to do?
Sorry, I was just commenting on Dave that if you look at the trace going into the quote attenuator, I mean, it's not exactly a great match to that pin.
Yeah. Let me bring it back.
Question: gain is cheap. So how about a small gain block followed by an attenuator? And if the first amplifier has good return loss, well, calibrate everything and there you go.
Well, if you're starting out from scratch, and I'm sure there are manufacturers, by the way, that follow that, they have a very wideband MMIC that's 10 dB or whatever. That just gets your signal to noise ratio at your detector up higher so that you have more accurate readings further down the scale. So yeah, what you said is correct. There, you want to, can you do a screenshot of that? because that's got the part numbers on it. Leave that up, Doug.
Okay,
You
got
can
it.
also use a good attenuator, a good microwave attenuator, high quality, before your gain block, and then you got good return loss.
I understand that, but then you have to calibrate what you're doing anyhow. Any of these devices are calibrating frequency by frequency to eliminate, mismatch loss and all that. So, yes, the answer to that statement is yes.
I'll read you the numbers. The top number is 43703. The middle number is 1152. And the bottom number is 113002.
Hang on, somebody here in the hall has bingo. Steve, go ahead.
What?
He was reading the bingo numbers.
Oh.
Oh, brother.
Steve, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I picked one of these up and we're kind of passing it around, Doug, to take a look
Okay.
at it. But it does. I will warn you, it doesn't turn on. It's not intuitive on how to turn this thing on.
It's not.
And,
You push the button in and slide it to the side.
Yeah, and I
But-
monkeyed with
but
this
if you're
thing
out- but-
for days. So if
But-
you do
but if
get
you're out in
one,
the contest,
yeah, if you do get one and you have any questions, definitely touch base with Doug and he'll get you straightened out pretty quick.
So I think we can
But-
disregard the full band statement there in the picture.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right, very good. Anybody got any other low power meter questions for Doug? If not, we're going to move on.
Yeah, Doug, what do you think about that Oak Hills Research WM2 QRP watt meter? It's a through line. You didn't include it in your presentation. Have you ever encountered it or measured it or?
What's its maximum frequency?
1.8 to 54 megahertz.
That's kind of way below our range here. We start at 300.
Yeah, I
Well-
know.
Well, to answer your question, I've never owned one and I've never measured one, so I don't know. There are a lot of QRP watt meters, and the Oak Hills looks like it's a good meter and has a good reputation. Oak Hills has a good
Comment
reputation.
about bird watt meters.
Okay.
The lower the power of the slug, the narrower the bandwidth. If you have like 1296 and you want to accurately measure power, start with at least a 100 watt slug on a 400 to 1000. That way you can get pretty close within a dB or so at 1200. But if you take a 25 watter, no way.
Yep.
And to buy on frequency like 1200 or 2300 meg bird slugs is very hard. They're very expensive, and bird does not have the capability of calibrating them reliably. So be careful.
Yes.
The lower the power, the narrower the bandwidth of the slug.
Why is that the case? What phenomenon causes that?
Coupler.
We're taking one apart.
If you get a 4410 bird watt meter, you do not have that trouble. And you have 2 slugs instead of 14 slugs. And even though the meter is more expensive when you buy it, it's $300. You only need 2 slugs, and you get 7 ranges with each slug, and they're all accurate. So the 4410 is the one to get.
Field work, having a drag around bird is nice. For home and you want to be accurate, get yourself a HP or something, 435. Very good accuracy within a fraction of a tenth of a dB.
All right, very good. Any other questions for Doug?
Yeah, what was the model number that that one Daiwa that was on eBay for $50?
You're
hang
looking.
on.
So 801N, you said something like that?
Oh yeah. Okay. I'm going back through the. It's a Charlie November 801.
Okay, cool. Thank
It's a. I hate to advertise that it's out there because all of a sudden the prices will go up, but right now the prices are like $50, $60. It's a steal of a deal.
Excellent. If that's all the questions, I see somebody who has shown up here on Zoom, and I want to say something to him here. Doug, are you finished?
I'm done. Thank you.
All right. Very good. Like to take, yeah, everybody give him a big hand there. All
Fun to
right.
do it.
WB6DNX, I see you're on Zoom at the moment. Can you hear us?
Yes, I am.
Excellent.
I'm a little late, but I'm here.
That's all right. Earlier, Brian, and he's left. He had to run home, but Brian said that he got all the banking stuff finished and wanted to thank you for all your help. And I just wanted to say in front of the group that you served as the treasurer for a long time, and the group greatly appreciates that, and we really appreciate your efforts. So I just wanted to make mention of that.
I appreciate that. And continuing with the
All right. Well, again, we want to thank you for your service to the group. It was very greatly appreciated. So.
all righty. Thank you very much.
All right. Yeah. So, all right. Very good. We're going to move on. And we thank you to the help desk again. We have Pat's going to talk about looks like rain scatter.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about rain scatter. I'm going to talk about not rain scatter, but we're going to go to the beginning, and we're going to talk about WSJT basic setup. It's going to be basic. I'm not going to go in a lot of details, but I'm just going to show you how it works and how you basically want to set it up if you're going to use it in the contest. When you load the program, you bring it up, this is what you get. You get a basic screen here, and you get a waterfall. You can go to File, Settings, and this is where you'll find your audio. When you're using the ICOM 705, you must load the USB drivers from ICOM prior to plugging in the USB cable. It loads in its own USB and creates two virtual COM ports, one for CIV port and one for the audio. If you don't do that, well, you're going to be in trouble. It ain't going to work, period. But you can go here, Windows changes your codecs because it's Windows. Periodically, it can do that. So if you're not getting any audio in and out, you can go in here, go into your device driver, look at where it put it, and then come back here and reselect it. That's all I can tell you. It just does that. You can offset, I'll go back here for a second. This frequency right here, I came up with 10. It doesn't normally do that, but to do that, you come into your frequencies, you go into settings, frequencies, and then you insert. This is the offset from your IF frequency. Mine is 432. This allows for 1068 ... to be displayed. So minus, and then I add 432, it takes me to 10368 for the display over here. And I've got this set up now, so it's not just Q65. This is set up for all modes. There's another way to do that, but the basics we're looking for is when we do the contest, we're only going to be doing digital, one mode, one type, and that's it. We're not going to be changing around. If you do, take it off the liaison and go somewhere else. You can change the mode up here. You can change the mode here. The mode and sub-mode and timing is displayed down here. Your sub mode is selected over here, and your transmit receive time is here. What we are going to use is JT6530 Bravo. That means you're using JT65 mode, 30 seconds, sub mode B. That's it. You don't need to know anything else. This is already known, so you do not need to put this out on Liaison.
But if you want to record it, everybody do a screen capture on this screen and save it.
We use 10368 150 as a starting point. You can take it anywhere you want. The signal's no more than 3 kcs wide, so unless your radio has more spurs, that's all you're going to bother, unless you're close to somebody else. You can use what you want. The only info to pass in digital and who goes first. Example, go to digital on 150, N6RMJ goes first. You come back here, you check this box right here. Who TX first? You put it in the call, you put it in the grid, and then you go generate standard message. There's other places in here to put your information, grid you're in, and all.
Pat,
Yes.
didn't you mean on that last slide to say QC5, not JT65?
Okay, excuse me, thank you. I did that incorrectly.
And as long as I have the mic, as long as I have the floor, are you going to be using the European contest mode so we can do 6-digit grids?
We can, yes, I just corrected it. It is now Q6530.
Right, and then for 6-digit grids, do you use the European, what is it called? European VHF?
Yes, that is done. Let me go back here. When you go into settings, if you go into advanced, I don't have a screen up, but you go into advanced, you turn on options over here, and then you go European contest mode. And that allows you to send 6-digit grids, which is done over here. But it's not done until somewhere down in here is where it actually sends the 6-digit grid in one of these two.
You can also, Pat, you can also enter your 6-digit grid in the settings as well when you set it up.
That's correct for you, but for the other person, once you do the 6-digit,
oh, I got what you're saying. Yeah, you're
it's
right.
not gonna, when you generate a standard message, the 6-digit grid does not appear until down in here. Okay. So for example, you're just gonna go digital on 150 and 6RMJ goes first, or I'm sorry, I keep hitting. Okay, let's go back. Keep hitting, okay. So whoever's gonna go first, you just say who's gonna go first when you're setting it. You don't need to go Q6530 break, 30 Bravo. You just need to say the frequency and who's going first. The digital is going to be standard for those using it. Is there any questions on that?
Well, comment, if one person can hear the other one, you just have the guy that can be heard easily go first, go wherever and let the second guy click on.
No, you don't understand how WSJT and digital works. If you're barely seeing and you can't even hear the carrier, but you're seeing it on the waterfall, you just point at each other. And once you see that, you just start the program and it will decode in the noise you can't even hear.
That's what I'm saying. If one guy can decode the other, you just let the other guy transmit until the first guy can decode him, and then he clicks on the decoded message and you're off to the races.
If he decodes it, it'll automatically start sending the other way.
Only if you have,
T8, but you don't do it for Q65. You want to set receive and transmit frequency precisely and not be off.
Right. You got to make sure you're on.
Click on them for FT8, that's fine, but not for Q65. You're asking for trouble.
Right. You say you're on 100, you better be on 100.000. Now, the next thing, WSJT needs to be, sorry about the spelling, timed synced. You have to have a way to set your computer to GPS timing or NTP timing, one way or the other. Sync your phone to your computer with an internet connection. This is sometimes hard to do and doesn't work. Get an external GPS for your laptop, such as I bought a VFan on Amazon. It's a USB GPS receiver. It's 20 bucks. Plugs into your USB port. The IC705 has GPS built in and can be used, but I have found on both of mine that it doesn't always get the satellites, and if it does, it takes quite a while to get them to output the information. So that's why I ended up going to the VFan. That all being said, you have to have a program that interprets the GPS information so it can clock your laptop or your computer, whichever you're using. I have found this BK Time Sync free for download. It allows you, if you have an NTP, an internet, or you can go GPS. I just did this earlier today, and when I sank up mine at 1806, I was 0.06 seconds off. That's well within close enough to work. If you don't do this and you're more than half a second off and it's a really, really weak signal, you're probably not going to work. What have you found on that, Chip? Are you still there, Chip? Okay.
If you do the moonbound's delay thing, you can be further off. So I would check that in advanced settings, I think is where it is.
Okay.
It allows you more error on the time.
The other couple things here is, I don't know that I got that screen in here. But in here, the maximum drift, I leave at 50. And the one thing you want to do, as we found, is you want to transmit at 1,000 hertz, which is going to put you right here. Sorry, come on. I clicked the mouse. It's going to put you right here, and that way your 3 kilohertz does not go out of the band. You can do it at 1,500. That's just going to move your transmit starting at 1,500 and takes it up to the edge. It's a 3 kC wide signal. The green line up here is your F-toll. If you're actually seeing a signal, you can lower this until the green line is just outside the signal, and you'll get better decode because it's looking at this wide green area once it finds the signal. So if it's shorter, it has less information to decode, and it will decode better. Okay, any questions on that? Okay. We went over liaison. For us who are doing digital, I'm trying to keep it so minimum information is passed. If you want to do a carrier, just like anything else, you get a hold of me, you say, give me a carrier. And it's the same thing. You tune on the carrier like you would with anything else, whether you're doing sideband, CW, whatever. But that's the minimum. This program's free to download. All you need to know is when you plug it in, what COM port the device found. So you go to your device drivers and look for COM ports, and you'll see that device under one of the COM ports. You select it, 9600. And you turn it on, and there it is. It works. And there's other things you can do here. I have mine starting up when I start the computer. It runs in the background. I don't have to worry about it. Now, rain scatter. Me and Frank have been working lately some more rain scatter just recently, but a lot over since the last contest. This is a signal from Frank. That is rain scatter. You can see how broad it is. 2 watts and an 18-inch dish. Here's a picture of rainscatter.com off the internet. Once you select somebody, or you can take this DX here and create a location by going DX, and you can put in the grid. And then once I clicked on Frank, which is right there, WB6CWN. And if there's any rain clouds available, usable, they turn red or white for higher. These are not usable. This changes all the time. It can change 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It can last for hours. You just got to keep watching as things are happening, and sometimes you have to track the storm. This particular cloud right here was at 27,800 foot. The red line is what is 99.9% usable with a dBz reflection of 25 dB. That's given by the people that are tracking the radar and all that. The blue line is visible to the top of the cloud. And a lot of times when you're out here at the blue, you can still work it. Any questions? And this, there will be rain scatter during the contest. Be aware of it, use it. A couple other things that me and Frank just found the last couple days was that he's running low power, I'm running high power. High power gets through very well. You go to FM because sideband gets too distorted, but we've had to go to sideband, do a cross mode in the sense is Frank will send to me on sideband because the signal's not strong enough on FM because it gets very broad and distorted when it's doing rain scatter. You go to sideband and you're able to pull it out on the weaker signals. The stronger signals go to FM, and if I can get an audio to play, I'll play it here in just a moment. And then plain scatter. Again, we all use it. When something gets in, whether you use a program or not, you go, oh, that must have been a plane. Well, if you have this program running, you can see, you can plot the two locations, put in your grid, put in his grid. And then this is what me and Frank worked when I was just below Fraser. We worked this one and we worked plane scatter. Plane scatter works when the plane goes this way much better than when it goes across the path. this way. When it's going with you, you have a longer period of time to work it with Doppler. But if you're seeing them go this way, you have to be very quick. You got to listen to liaison, and when they go, you're listening and you start seeing it build, you go send now. You got to listen. The only way to do it is liaison. If you're using some sort of Slack or anything else other than a phone, by the time you communicate, that plane will be gone. Now, I'm going to try one thing here to see if I can get a video running. Give me just a moment, please. I'm going to come over here and go to here, here. Save screenshots.
What's the maximum Doppler shift that you see when you're looking at that size circle?
If it's going with you, you'll hear it come and go, and I have worked 20, 30 seconds off one.
No, frequency shift. Is it the airplane's going, if the airplane's going away from you, the frequency is going to shift down. If the airplane's coming towards you, it's going to shift up.
If you're on sideband, you're still going to be able to work it. I can't tell you right offhand. I don't know. I don't have that answer.
At X band, the frequency shift is very small. It's almost it's within the audio passband or almost in the audio passband.
Okay, I've seen bigger than that, but I was going to ask a related question in the.
Okay, listen up. Let's see if this will work. Okay, that one didn't. Okay, let me go back. Let me see if this one works. Okay, that one did. I have one more place to look. Give me just a second. It's over here. This is Frank in Phoenix, and I'm in my backyard. This is what I'm looking through. Those palm trees. And the tank's gonna come out here again.
All right, N6RMJ, N6RMJ, this is WB6 Charlie with November, WB6 copy over.
WB6CWN and 6RMJ, copy gives fine. I'm in Delta Mike 25 Radio Echo.
QSL, Delta Mike 25 Radio Echo, your Q5S9, a good strong signal off of reading together, and running 2 watts into an 18-inch dish, and pointed toward Kingman, Arizona, and got a strong signal on FM and sideband, and also CW. So this is a good propagation day. Over.
Roger, Roger. Okay. So that path was approximately 180 miles. And that's what's possible on FM. That was a good one. But we've had ones that have been less. My 30 watts gets through fine on FM. His 2 watts gets through on sideband. So try whatever mode works for whichever station.
So, Pat, is that path workable without the rain scatter or without enhancement?
There's always some enhancement. Some days there's something that breaks up the enhancement, as Dave, you and me have found with the wind over the high top mountains.
So some days you can't work it a lot of the time you can sort of work it with weak signals, and then with the rain scatter, it's just S9 plus.
That's correct. The one thing I want to say is Frank's down here. He cannot physically see this cloud. That's why you need the program to tell you where to point. When I was here, I was pointed up at 45 degrees in order to get into the cloud. And the beacon, when I peeked up on the Phoenix beacon, it was very narrow. It was like 1 degree wide by 1 degree high. And if I went anything out of that window, it just went away, but it was loud. So I could have worked off any one of these clouds if I could have physically seen over my neighbor's house. I don't see this way very well at all right now. I've got 2-story apartments and other things. I just can't see the horizon. If you can see the horizon. Now the thing with this is there's ones that get right up here in Death Valley, Delta Mike 16, and it shows this circle down to here, up above Sacramento and above the Bay Area. And they become very usable. If we could all learn to use them, we could make a lot more long haul contacts. I just want to interject something. Barry, are you live?
Yeah, I'm here.
Why don't you tell them your last experience that you just did?
Well, I was using a storm that was, can't remember exactly, about 57,000 feet, and it was a 950 kilometer QSO to Iowa.
I
Very
think they're all
good.
big in the Midwest.
Yeah,
Well,
there's been a lot of big ones this year.
Yes, last year when N9JIM was giving his rain scatter talk, I pulled up rain scatter and there was one approximately that big right at the time we were doing the meeting. So they're out there, you just got to look for them. And there a lot of stuff happens over San Jacinto and over 29 Palms and in that area between Arizona and the LA area, but the Central Valley, we haven't pursued that enough.
Pat,
There's a lot to be
what elevation did you say you were pointing up at?
about 45.
That thing's 100 miles away from you.
Thank you. No, the one I pointed 45 degrees up was about 20 miles away.
Yeah, you'd be surprised at how far you can go on that rain scatter.
But don't be afraid to elevate way beyond what you think. Just sweep and look and find a beacon. You'll find a storm, find a beacon. If there's a beacon anywhere around, if you can peek on the beacon, figure out where it is, run this program. This is free. You got to have internet connection, but it's rainscatter.com. When you put in the 2, it tells you there's a direct heading, but you want to point into the scatter 240. Frank had to point at 301. It gives you both locations and where to point. Tells you the altitude of the storm and the grid.
All right, I just found a Doppler effect calculator online. It's not bistatic, but I tried to put in some reasonable numbers and I made the airplane very damn fast, 500 foot per second. And that only works out to be something like about 5.3 kilohertz of Doppler shift. So it's within one sideband audio passband or another. You don't have to tune very far because of the Doppler shift to find it.
So let me interject something here then. Yeah, and that's my experience has been it can be 3 to 5 kilohertz. But if you've got a display, a waterfall display on your radio, you see the airplane come, and it'll usually come from the right-hand side, and you'll see it move through F0 and then the same distance off the other side. You can actually track it and watch it move through your display. The other thing is, an airplane may be coming toward me, but it's going away from the other person. So the Doppler gets complex because it's really more like, is the airplane changing elevation that's causing it rather than it coming and moving?
Well, that's why you want to use a bistatic Doppler effect calculator, because in effect, you've got a bistatic radar, one ham transmitter on the ground, the scatterer in the sky moving, imparting the Doppler shift, and another ham radio receiver on the ground. That's a bistatic radar.
The bottom line is, for our use during the contest, it don't matter what it is, just use it. You'll hear the signal start peaking, start calling, and work each other.
And the other point is the Doppler shift is not so very big. It's within one sideband channel or two. So you're not going to have to tune very far.
That's why I use the waterfall display. You see it the whole time.
Yep.
All right. Very, very, very good. Pat, you have anything else to offer?
Yeah, I was just going to tell you, Pat, there's a bunch of them over Colorado right now.
Well, that's what I've got up right now. And if you see what I just clicked on, you can see the area that it covers. That one's at 57,700. This actually has a triangle hidden behind it that I've got used to look for that tells it for the better storms. There's another one, if I can get it.
Yeah, the first rain scatter contact I had was with Robin, and he was in Nevada and I was in Riverside.
Yeah, this one's at 48,000, but I'm seeing storms right in this area. And in this area, Delta Mike 16 and Delta Mike 08 that cover San Diego, and they go just like this. So
that's a pretty nasty storm there over Denver.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of stuff that happens out here. Yeah, this is a nasty one. And then there's Barry. And you said you worked to where, Barry?
Down to W0LQG. Yeah, right there. Yeah.
So you could see how big that storm was. But that was from one edge to the other edge of the storm, correct?
That's right. And the storm was right in the middle.
So somewhere in here. And neither of you could see the storm.
No.
That also means that your antenna elevation was near the horizon.
Usually the storms for me, when I'm trying to work 500 or 600 kilometers, it's all down on the horizon. It's only when the storm gets close that you have to elevate.
Correct.
In fact, I used the elevation for the first time in 10 years the other day. Over about 100 miles east of me, there's a V3 on there now, and we had a storm in between us, and it was close to me, so I elevated, and yeah, it was there. So
very, very good. And any questions for Pat?
Yeah, if you want to make the long haul contacts and there's rain scatter, it will definitely help. And the last point is WB6CWN and myself are going up to the Wallapai Mountains on Saturday morning to check out a spot. Delta Mike 35, Bravo Bravo or Bravo Charlie. We're not sure till we get there. If anybody can be on, please let us know. We're only going to be on between about 10:30, 11 o'clock We're only going to spend an hour out there checking out where we can operate from. If anybody's around, we'll try and work you. We'd like to try and work people to see how the spot works. If anybody wants to speak up and say they can be on, it'd be nice.
I hope I'll be set up by then on Potosi, but working Potosi from there is like shooting fish in a barrel.
This is this Saturday.
Hold on. We're talking about day after tomorrow.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the day of the weekend of the contest.
How far from Phoenix?
It's from me, it's about 70 miles
Okay, Roger.
south. We're gonna meet, we're gonna go up the hill. It's actually where the cactus potato patch area is where we're going.
You got, you arranged to get through the gate?
Yeah, I talked to Kim.
Good,
That's all taken care of.
good, good, good.
All right, questions for Pat? All right.
Who's
Pat,
gonna be on?
thank
Can
you very
anybody
much.
get on the hour window? Okay,
I might be able to, Pat. I'll text you after the meeting's over.
okay. It's at approximately 7,000 foot, plus or minus 200 or 300 foot.
All right, very good. Thank you very much, Pat. I appreciate that. Are there any people that have questions for the group? In other words, I'm preparing for the contest. I have a question I need answered. This is the time now to ask that question. If anybody needs anything, any help for the upcoming contest. And it's the same offer I've been making too for the last 2 or 3 meetings. If there's some component or part you need, speak up and we'll figure out what to do. If there's technical help, we'll help you get hooked up with an Elmer. Or if you got a question for the group about some contest component, ask now.
The salesman said he could survive a plane crash, so.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Perhaps you should fly inside.
Could you mute that for a second?
Yes.
I've been having trouble with my rig. I just got it back from Downey's Microwave. They replaced some parts for me. And then I noticed that my waveguide adapter thingy, the SMA, the little hole in there was bent. So I ordered another one from Pasternak. And the one that they sent, the little antenna thingamabob was too long. So I don't know if my camera can show it, but so I added a couple of nuts on there. Let me see if I can't fix my camera so I get the background off. Let's see if it'll show it now. Okay. So I added a couple of nuts on there so that it would fit.
Too close.
There you go. So now the little antenna thingy on the inside, now it doesn't touch the thing. So but I looked on Pasternak to find one with a shorter little stud in there, and I couldn't find one, so I had to make that one work.
All right,
So
so
that's
that's a tuned circuit. And typically, if it came from the factory with the probe, you're talking about the probe on the inside.
Right. Yeah.
If it came from the factory with the probe, that's a certain.
Dave, she replaced the SMA connector because the one that was originally on there was bent.
Okay.
So the one she
let's just find her one that's working. Anybody got an SMA
The probe
You don't think
into the waveguide needs to be about the same length as the original probe into the waveguide, about a quarter wave.
Let's just bypass all of that. Let's just go. Does somebody have an SMA to WR90 waveguide adapter that we can send to her so that she doesn't
Yes,
have to
I
mess
will.
with this?
I will send her one that's all
SMA?
ready to go.
SMA
You don't-
female.
You don't think this one will work with the
I
nuts that I have on
no,
her?
no, because there's other issues I think that you've created there. And
Oh,
so I think
okay.
the best, you get an A for effort, an A+ for effort.
Absolutely.
But I think let's just find you one that's commercially ready to go.
Right.
Loretta, is your address good on qrz.com?
Yes.
Okay, I'll send you one ready to go. Now, the next question is, are the holes in your adapter threaded on the WR90 flange or open?
They're threaded.
Okay, I'll send you an exact replacement ready to go. And that'll be an SMA female.
Yeah,
This-
it's a female.
This is how this should go. Thank you very much, Chip. Appreciate that.
Question. Loretta, was that what you were using when I talked to you on the phone today?
Yeah, but the problems I was having happened before I replaced it. It was with the older one. That's when I took everything apart and I noticed that the
Right. But if you were using that, that's another issue.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't working.
Oh, okay.
Let's do one step at a time here. Let's change out the adapter and then see what comes to life or if there's still an issue. Because I know what Chip's going to send her has been tested on his $100,000 network analyzer. So I know that it's going to be a good component.
Is Pasternak that, because that's where I got that was Pasternak, but I couldn't find another one like that. So is there another place like
Pasternak's devices are probably going to be intended for the commercial market, not specifically for the ham band.
They're very expensive.
Yeah, I know that one was about $30.
Ouch.
But that
Yeah, I
was just,
know. But to replace the whole thing, this whole thingamajiggy right here, we're looking at $700 to $3,000. I'm like, I'll take the $30. I'll take the $30.
No.
We'll find you the
Well, that's what-
parts. Just let us know and we will find you the parts. Just get on the reflector and say, here is what I need.
But everything in between is vertically polarized. Everything, I made sure nothing was cross polarized. But like
Okay.
you said, Pat, I just made sure.
Yeah. The other thing is if you can lay that rubber jumper on a flat table and maybe put a pencil under it a couple places just to get it up off the table, you should be able to see light all the way through it with no dings or dents. So that's a test that I would run.
I did that. I with everything connected the way it is, except with this thing off, I was
Then
able
it
to see through.
Then it has to work. So we know that part's good also.
Something about polarizations. We're not running vertical polarization. We're
No,
running
she just made sure that she didn't have any of the waveguide fittings cross-guided, is what she's saying.
Okay.
So, all right, very good. So when you get the part from Chip, please let one of us know, Pat, Chip, or even myself, let us know and we will help you with the next step. Assuming that we need one.
If that doesn't work in time for the contest, I'm gonna try the 905. I was at the microwave symposium and I wasn't able to work the 10 gigahertz with the other folks, and that's because I didn't have a cable coming from the I was missing a cable. So if this doesn't work in time, I'm gonna try the 905 and see how that goes.
All right, cool. You got several options. And I know that where you live,
Yes.
you should be able to hear the Fraser beacon. And I really think you can hear the Palos Verdes beacon as well if you just aim over the top of the San Gabriel's. So,
Yeah.
and by the way, Chip could work you if, and I'm Chip can correct me if I'm wrong. He can work you almost any time that he's there working in his lab. He can just aim his antenna up your way and swap signals with you.
Yes.
Okay.
So you got
Sounds good,
got-
because I'm missing out on a bunch of stuff, and
Ex- and you got a huge
Yeah.
support network between all of us here. We're going to get you going and get you reliable.
okay, thank you. I appreciate that, y'all, because I'm missing out on all this fun
Now
stuff.
we'll
you
make
know,
we'll make
it's-
sure.
Help her get the basic stuff put together.
So and Larry, she lives near Larry, and Larry's been helping and also.
Yeah, he helped me replace a capacitor that I blew.
Yeah. Excellent. Larry's a good guy.
Now, speaking of that,
All right.
are all the beacons up?
Not heaps.
Oh,
No, there is no Santiago beacon. Long gone. Yeah. And it's in heaps is in my garage. So right now that's where it's at. Okay, I want to see if anybody else need help with a particular issue. Anybody else gone? All right.
This
If
pain in my elbow.
yeah, I know, but you should stop trying to put it in your ear. That's usually what the problem is. Very good. Anybody listening out there, if you know of another ham that's got microwave equipment and they're frustrated because something is or isn't working correctly, I don't know anybody who gets frustrated when it is working correctly, but nonetheless, if you know anybody who's frustrated because it's not working correctly, get them to post on the reflectors, SBMS at groups.io. That's and you're going to find there's people there waiting to help. Operators are standing by to take calls. So very, very good. I think Robin wants to talk a little bit about Cactus. So let's move on to that. And before we close the meeting, I will accept the questions again about people needing help with something. So Robin, please speak to us.
Okay, I don't have a great deal. I'm specifically concerned that there's a significant number of relatively newcomers out there that are going to be trying to get on in the contest. And if you haven't operated in the contest environment and used Cactus before, it's a bit of an experience. You have to be prepared for what you hear. It is a very large party line, if you will. And basic operator discipline is necessary. The most important thing is push the button, take a breath, say what you've got to say, and then listen. And if you can possibly be duplex, you want to be duplex, but you're going to have to understand what happens when you're duplex. I'm concerned that we're going to have a significant number of new people that are going to feel like they've been run over by a large fleet of buses. And we need to be prepared for a way to help these people to work through how to use the liaison system without extreme frustration. Is there's a lot of people talking and they're all talking at once, and the system can handle that, but you have to learn how to handle it too, and that makes it difficult.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you bought a 905, or if you know somebody who bought a 905 and they're getting on the air for the first time and they need somebody to work with during the contest, raise your hand on Cactus. I don't care what's going on. Say, hey, this is W6XYZ. I'm looking to make my first contact. I am located in, and you fill in the blank. There will be people who are going to stop what they're doing and they're going to try and work with you. There is nothing going on that liaison, even though it sounds like chaos, total chaos. There is nothing going on that is so important that we don't want to work first time or newcomers to the hobby. So do not be timid about this. Just raise your hand, say something, and you will find somebody is going to work with you. Maybe several people.
Yes, there will be people who will jump in and say, okay, let's talk about this, and they'll figure out perhaps you're in range of another another station, another repeater that the two of you can use together and then go off and talk about it. There's a number of solutions. Just when you do put your oar in, don't give us your life story. Say what you got to say in as few words as possible. And remember that when you push the button, it takes time after you get the button pushed before anybody will hear you at all. And that time can be a couple of seconds. It's best to push the button, take a breath, then talk. And if you can be duplex, be duplex. Don't be intimidated by the huge amount of traffic that's there. It's one great big party line. Everybody can talk at once. And if you tune your ears a little bit, you can hear the person that you're trying to listen for. You can hear them chime in. So it's intimidating, but don't want this to intimidate the new people. If you've been on in a contest or two, you already have the idea what's going on, and you have figured out what works for you to understand what's going on Liaison. Because sometimes it can be really intimidating, and maybe the right thing to do is just wait 5 minutes. Well, that's not necessarily what you're going to try to do if you're playing rain scatter games and so on and so forth. And that's all part of the process. You just have to figure out how to get a word in edgewise. And if you're duplex, you sometimes can actually get words in between other people's words and get your message across. There's a bit of an art to it. You can't break the radio system, so just do the best you can. As far as what radio to use, it's not necessary to use the radio that's closest to you. You just need to use a radio that's loud to wherever you are, so that when you transmit, you're not noisy and weak into the system. So all the people working on Fraser don't all have to talk to Fraser. Unfortunately, Burnt's the best alternative, and the Edison company has not seen fit to produce electrons up there for 3 years now, so that's not working yet. The rest of the network is in good shape. We just moved Meadow Lakes to a new building and reworked the entire radio. With a little bit of luck, I'll do something about the Fraser receiver that listens to Meadow Lakes this weekend. But the network is in good shape. All the pieces appear to be working. Right now, we're disconnected from Utah. I don't know whether there's not been much activity from up that direction, and having Frisco Peak off doesn't have much effect on us. For the people that are east of about Phoenix, we aren't necessarily going to have all of the network east of Phoenix turned on, because that extends a long ways out into Texas and so on and so forth. And there's not a lot of point to it. There's not people there trying to make use of it. I don't know exactly what the guys there are going to do to segment it. If they can, it's the system will tolerate it. They'll just segment it so Lemon is the only radio that's listening to the contest traffic, and the rest of the radios in the Tucson and Eastern region won't be connected. That's the most likely configuration. If you have a question, if you run into anything that doesn't make any sense and you're trying to figure out what's going on, if you can get a word in edgewise, ask somebody. Otherwise, if you're near a telephone, pick up the telephone and call one of the people that has something to do with it. I'll be on Potosi. I'm not sure whether I'll be able to answer the cell phone very effectively up there, but there are people that will talk to you. And there's nothing hidden about this. It's not dark magic, and we're willing to explain and help you through it and help you to see the best way to use the giant party line, which is what it is. Just one, all the receivers are all active at the same time, and the transmitters are mostly going to be continuously transmitting depending upon what goes on. You never wait for a transmitter to drop off. You may wait till the end of the contest before the transmitter will drop off. If you've got something to say, push the button and say it. The system is duplex and designed to run continuously. You don't wait. Yes.
And if you make a comment, you're trying to get a response, don't wait 5 minutes for the response. If you don't hear a response in a minute, re-say what you said because they didn't hear you.
Yeah. And if you're in the process of a contact, you're just trying to say, hey, I need some help here. If you don't get a response, 30 seconds or a minute later, say something again, because you may not have been heard. And we want to hear you. If you're in the process of making a contact and you tell the other station to transmit and nothing happens, they didn't hear you. Say it again. 15 seconds, 20 seconds. If you confine your transmission to 4 or 5 words, there's room for everybody. If you explain how many connectors there are in series with your coax and why they can't hear you because there's too many, nobody will have time to talk. Say what you got to say and nothing else. And it's hard to get used to, but it does work. And it does make it possible. The only thing I think that will out-talk Rain Scatter is Cactus.
We'd like to prove that wrong.
Yeah, that would be just fine. The coverage to the north is lacking in that respect. But the guys, I guess there's some guys going to St. John's, and that's pretty far up. And if we get some good rain scatter, we'll be able to talk to them a long darn ways.
Excellent. Have you said what you wanted to say?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I don't want to cut you off. I kind of need to keep things rolling. Barry, VE4MA, you made a comment a few minutes ago on text, and I didn't understand your comment. Can you repeat it here?
Oh, no, I was just on the chat. There was mention about that the scattering object needed to be closest to one end for best results. Well, if you're trying to bounce off a water tower, yeah, that's the case. But if you're trying to work DX, you want the scattering point to be out in the middle, is in between you, is for best results.
I agree with that statement. It just clicked off my screen, and I wanted to make sure that your comment either got heard or got answered. So thank you very much. You want to take a few moments and just tell us what you're up to? We're kind of running late, but since you're here, you can go ahead and have the floor for a couple of minutes.
Okay, I've been busy. I actually have been trying to get my 47 gig EME station back on the air after 15 or 17 years, I guess it is, and getting very, very close. I thought I was all done, and then my IF transverter packed it in, so I've got to put something else together. 1296 transverter of all things, but I don't want to disturb the main station. You know, it's got to keep it separate. So looking forward to some skids with a German station probably in the next couple of weeks. So, and I know Gary, K6MG and W5LUA are wanting to participate as well. And so hopefully we'll have some good QSOs this fall before I go down to Arizona for the winter. And
Sounds
that's
good.
about it.
All right. Sounds good. Glad to see you. All right. I'm going to run through a couple people here on Zoom. And since you mentioned Gary K6MG, Gary, you got anything you want to add real quick?
No, nothing to add. Sorry.
All right. Very good. Well, good to hear you as well. Dylan, N6MX.
Hi, this is Dylan. Yeah, this is my second time calling in here. I called in last month, but I think I put in the chat I was a bit busy. I was up on a roof at the W6TRW Club installing some brand new antennas. So yeah, this is the first time I really got to devote my attention to the meeting. But yeah, I have a Demi transverter that I bought a few months ago for 10 gigahertz, Nikon 705. And Tony Long has been my 10 gigahertz Elmer up until just recently. He's moving down to San Diego, and I'm up here in South Bay area, San Pedro. So I'm still trying to get some of my stuff set up. I need to make an opto coupler circuit for the PTT to my transverter. But yeah, Tony's been a big help. He's got all the test equipment and making sure that the transverter works and that everything looks about right. And I was getting about 5 watts out of the transverter, so which is more than the advertised 3 watts. So that's good. But yeah, since Tony's moving away, I might need some additional Elmering if someone's available for that and is up in the South Bay area, because I'm not sure what his availability will be like, if he's going to be driving back up here or not.
All right. Well, Tony's going to be hard to replace, but I do know that there's several other really, really good Elmers in the South Bay area. So the best thing to do, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, so I apologize right now for doing it. Just post on the SBMS at groups.io that, hey, here I am, and anybody got some time to help me with this. Tell me what size dish you got. You said you're getting 5 watts. What size dish?
Well, I have an Omni antenna right now. I have an 18-inch offset dish that was scrap, and I think it needs the feed like calibrated on it, is what Tony was telling me. So I don't think that that'll be ready for the contest. Do you know if the Omni will be enough?
So there are people who have used Omnis in the past, and quite frankly, some of them have worked an amazing distance with them. And I just want to caution you, don't think that you're going to work 200 or 300 miles with it on your first day out. But there are going to be enough people around the LA basin that should be almost line of sight to you, or maybe Fraser Mountain or the lower San Joaquin Valley or San Diego. You should be able to work them with 5 watts. So, and a good example of this is like the N6CA beacon. That's pretty much the ERP that it runs, and it can be heard up in the San Joaquin Valley. It can be heard up in the Palmdale, Lancaster. It can be heard in the Inland Empire. It can be heard way east when there's rain scatter. It can be heard in San Diego. So you would be running the equivalent ERP of that, but you need to be up clear, away from the trees and buildings and everything else. So if you can find a spot that's safe and easy to operate from, you'll do real good with it. But somebody here says just go to the top of the TRW building. So there you go. So yeah,
I guess that's an option too. So
I guess the best thing to do is just get out and get on the air and see who works you, because the minute you come on the air, there's going to be a whole bunch of people clamoring to work you because you're a new call. We kind of take pride in trying to work the first guy who shows up on the air for the first time. So
don't give up.
Very good.
Just because you can't hear it right away. Work at it, work at it, work at it.
all right, that sounds good.
Now.
Yeah, I'm not looking to set any records or anything. Just this will be my first real time doing anything on 10 gigahertz. So I'm just happy to make a few contacts.
Oh, the band is a blast, and you have the right attitude. As long as you're not trying to hit a home run, but a triple is fine. Yeah, you're going to do just fine. I'm going to move on, but I want to welcome you to showing up on here, and we want to see you up. Chris is waving his arms.
Have a suggestion. As you send your information to Mel, note if you're a new operator and where you plan to be, and you might be able to pair up with an experienced operator. That
Yeah,
way
we haven't mentioned that yet.
Cactus doesn't become the chaos monster for that person.
So this is an excellent suggestion, and we have not mentioned that yet tonight, and we didn't mention it last time either. If you want, you can come up on the SBMS at Groups IO and say, hey, I want to show up with my radio where somebody else is operating from. And that's a really, really good experience to work with another person. And, you can compare operating skills and things of that nature. It's very, very educational. So thank you. That's an excellent suggestion. Again, the nexus for this is people posting to the reflector. If you don't post there, we don't know you're there, you're here. And let Mel WA6JBD know where you're going to be, what time you're going to be on, what your location is, your 5 watts, your Omni, and that you're a new station. So, and Mel will make a note of that. And then the evening before the contest, Mel publishes the list, and then you have a list of where everybody is that you can work. So.
Okay, that sounds great. Yeah, thanks for all the help and advice with that. I'll reach out on the reflector then, and looking forward to working some people in the contest.
Excellent.
Thanks again, 7-3.
All righty. Mike K6ML, you got any input for us tonight?
No, just say hi.
Very good. Appreciate it. Appreciate you joining the meeting and saying hi. I have a Gary that just says Gary. Who are you? I'm going to move on, but if you show up, I'll be happy to talk to you. All right, Courtney, are you around your computer right at the moment? We missed you last month because there was a thing on my screen that covered your tile. How about Ryan, W6SZ? Do you good to see you on here? Do you have anything you want to say to the group tonight?
Really?
That's okay. Neil, did you have anything you wanted to offer tonight? N6 VHF.
No, nothing really. I can't think of anything. I'm gonna be on I haven't sent my info to Mel yet, but I'm definitely gonna be out there. And I'll be in the south, down in DM13, DM03 area to start out. So if those new guys need some help, I could always pitch in, even though I'm fairly new myself.
Very, very good. See, there you got an offer. Thank you very much. Thanks for your input earlier this evening. Chip, did you have anything you wanted to say to the group tonight?
Hi, good to see all the new people on, and if I can be of help, I'm here all the time.
And you're in the South Bay, right? Or equivalent thereof?
Yep.
There you go. Just Chip is very bashful. He doesn't really want to talk about himself much, but he has a full microwave lab, and it probably is equivalent to what may be out on the production floor at TRW. So just making that comment. All right. Good to see you tonight. Thank you. Chris, W6NOB. Good to see you.
It's good to be here. Due to health issues, I'm not able to participate in August. I may be able to participate in September, not sure yet, but I'm sure looking forward to getting back at this because I've been missing it badly, and I need to get out there and get operating again. But in the meantime, welcome to all the new people. I encourage you to jump in with both feet and just go, go, go. This is great fun. It's a huge learning experience, and you've got the best teachers on this planet to help you get there. And so don't ever give up. Always ask for help. You will find it.
Amen. All right. Very good. I could not have said that better myself. Thank you very much. And as always, it's really good to hear you. Working through here, I think everybody else is on Zoom has had something to say. let's go through the meeting hall here real quick. Robert, you go first, just briefly.
Let's see.
Microphone.
Let's see. I'm going to be on at DM 13IX, the place I like to keep putting on the map. Will be operating from his house at the base of Box Springs. And that's where I'm going to be because I have to have the next second set of eyes because I can't see nothing. So.
How
Yeah,
much-
I'll let Tom talk about the board. He can fill you in.
All right. We have, Robert and I have put together 3 little circuit boards for, you know, to a large extent for me to learn from. First one is a board with some hairpin filters and and a couple of amplifiers on it. And the ability to switch current to one or the other of the amplifiers to be a transmitter receive. The last version of this we made, Robert tested at 9.8 gigahertz. This one should be a little higher and maybe will be at 10 gigahertz. We'll see. Board number 2 is a Max 2870 oscillator, a programmable oscillator, and a LTC 4558 mixer. And the hope is we will use the Arduino Nano to program the 2870 and
Shine a cell phone flashlight on that picture for Zoom.
yeah, that's the filter board. Oh, okay. This should work as a beacon. The Arduino Nano can generate CW. And maybe we can use that as a receiver as well. The third board is a second generation of the one that we've done before. It has an IC on it that was a down converter for satellite television. It's obsolete and pretty inexpensive from DigiKey at this point. With its data sheet time base of 25 megahertz, a 10.368 signal comes out of the IF at 618 megahertz. We're going to use a Max 2870 to feed it a different time base and bring out the IF at 432 megahertz or else 144. And there's other options. I think we can bring the IF out almost anywhere between 144 megahertz and maybe 2 gigahertz. So that's gonna be interesting. And that the same board has another channel of the 2870 feeding another one of these 4558 mixers. And that would be the transmit channel. The 4558 mixer also has a local oscillator doubler built in. So we can feed it 5 gigahertz from the 2870 and get out 10 gigahertz, actually up to 12 gigahertz out the other end of that. So this would be a pretty tiny signal, but you could feed that to an amplifier on the other end. And I think what our initial goal will be to feed a poloplexer from this as the antenna and a Baofeng handheld as the handset. A pretty inexpensive 10 gigahertz starter setup.
Excellent.
SDWA60X, nothing really to report at this time.
You can skip me.
Chris at 9RIN. I think I'm going to start at Signal Hill and Long Beach for the contest, and then maybe hit Huntington Beach, probably the Cliffs area. And from there, I'm not sure where else, but probably another 1 or 2 stops at least. Depends on how my body reacts and holds out.
Nothing to report here. I'm still trying to figure out if I will be out for the contest. So we'll see.
I've got one right here. All right. Mel, WA6JBD in Upland. Contest plans, I've published a Plan A and a Plan B. Plan A being operating from home, which would be about 35 watts, switchable to an Omni or a steerable horn. It's worked out pretty good for me. Plan B would be the mobile setup with an Omni and just roving around in that configuration, about 5 watts or so to an Omni. So I haven't managed to figure out which way I'm going to go. It's probably going to be one plan on August and then the other in September. And I just have to determine the order. If everybody sends me the plans, I post periodic updates on the SBMS reflector prior to the contest. You can send it to me, my call sign, WA6JBD at verizon.net. Tell me what who you are, where you're going, what your rig is, what bands and so on. And I kind of edit it down to 1 or 2 lines and just add it to the list. That's all I got.
Roland, take a bow.
Well, this is Roland, KC6JPG for the Amateur Television Network. And I just want to say that 3 of our people, Rod Fritz, WB9KMO, Ed, K5OLA, and there's someone else, but they got 905s, the IC 905s ready to go ATV on 2.4 and 5.9. And so I'm having a little contest with the group. And of course, I'm involved with the DeLorean Owners Association. And the first ham that transmits into the ATN system using FM, using either using 2.4 as our input and receive 5.9 here at Santiago, they're going to be awarded a little DeLorean pin. So I've got the group all gung-ho, including 2 in Arizona, and that's Rod and Ed. And Ed was on the net and he was hitting the transmit switch, but didn't make it into the repeater yet. So not enough horsepower.
But watch out for these 2 guys because their board will do FM.
Yeah. That's why we're keeping FM on our repeaters. And so I'm this close to getting the 905 myself. And we're also planning on putting 10 gigs video input on Santiago. That's my report. Casey.
All right, everybody give Roland a big hand here for bringing the meeting to you.
Yep, the left hand is great.
Robin, you want to say anything?
Yeah, it's Robin, WA6CDR. I'm still in the high 80s or low 90s%. It's going to be a high potency for the weekend. And so far so good. It's an amusing thought about the DeLorean owners. I stayed with a fellow in Fresno while I was working on the radio on Meadow Lakes. I was walking by his DeLorean every day. It just had he just finished restoring it and is driving it.
All right. I'm going to let go of this. That's going to turn. All right. I'm going to go back to the master microphone now.
Just a short comment.
Say that again.
A short comment from.
Yes. Yes, comment.
If you pronounce it as a gigahertz, then you make a giant pronunciation error, perhaps even a gigantic pronunciation error.
I know, but you know that before I've told you I've been to the Guggenheim Museum there in New York, so I just wanted you to know that.
Oh, really?
Instead of Guggenheim, it is gigawatts. All right, very good. All right, one last comment. Just want to make sure anybody needing any help, anybody new wants to get some, a little bit of extra time making a contact, anybody who wants to come watch while contacts are made, and George has got his hand up there. Let us know and we will make sure that your dreams all come true. That's what we are. We're the Make the Microwave Dream Foundation. So we will make it happen.
I love SBMS and I love how you're helping out Loretta.
We're working real hard at it. We're trying at least. All right. I want to thank everybody for participating tonight. Again, I want to thank Roland for bringing the meeting to you guys wherever you are in the world. And we will. Whoop. All right. So we have one station here in Riverside that you can go into their backyard and they are up high and they overlook the Riverside area, and they also can reflect signals off Box Springs. So they're welcoming you, and they have free beer. They have as much free beer as you want. So that should not be the motivation to go there. Don't get me wrong.
There's room next to where I'm parking my truck.
There you go.
I don't think you want to try.
No, I'm kidding. They're not going to give you free beer.
Well,
But if you're going there, you should bring them some. How's that?
Who was that? Robert?
Our RV. We're located at DM13IX, just below the sea on the Box Springs Mountain.
The key to this whole thing again, put your request up on the reflector, SBMS at groups.io. I'm going to keep saying it and keep saying it. By the way, I did make the comment when I made the meeting announcement. There was almost 100 postings over the last month there. That's the most I think I've seen in a 1 month period. And a lot of them were not in the weeds. Very few people were out in the weeds trying to work UFO scatter or trying to figure out why the government did something. While those things may be important to you, they're not real important to Groups.io. But post your intentions there, post your questions there, post what you need. Whatever it is, post it there. You're going to receive the help you deserve. All right, very good. I'm going to bring the meeting to a close. Thanks everybody for coming.